Hello, welcome to the Cunning Plan podcast. I'm here with Ali.
Hello.
Joe.
Hello.
And I'm James. Hello. We're here today to talk about shopping centres and shopping centre digital marketing. If you aren't a shopping centre or have no interest in shopping centres, I'm afraid this one is probably not going to be for you. It's something we've done, we've worked with a lot of shopping centres over the years. I myself come from a retail background originally, and it's something that retail and this kind of shopping centres and things like this have always been of a real interest. And we thought it would be a nice idea just to kind of chat through some of the detail and some of the stuff we've learned about over the last few years. It's definitely a type of business where you don't have a lot of resources, you don't have a lot of time, you're doing a huge number of different things all of the time. So digital marketing and stuff like this often gets falls to the wayside, and it's something that people don't get a chance to do. So we thought, why don't we just share some of that knowledge, some of that information we've had previously. We've also recently produced a white paper about this, so again, if you're interested in learning a bit more, by all means download that too and have a little read. But if that's not for you, we apologise, and we'll see you next week. Everybody else, stick around and hopefully you'll find something interesting to uncover. So, shopping centres. You guys both work on a couple of different shopping centres.
Yes.
How do you find them?
Interesting. I think, as you said, I think they are often, especially centre managers, they're sort of pulled pillar to post. So I think it's very much a case of using a bit of sort of your own initiative at a time and understanding the audience as well. Every area has a slightly different, the sort of shopping centre will play a slightly different role. If it's not in a city, if it's sort of in a town or something, it'll be quite an integral part of the community. But if it is in a city, it's competing against lots of other things. You have to think about you're constantly about how you're presenting it, really.
And I think like the big benefit of shopping centres is just the diversity with the different tenants, with like you have like food courts. There's a huge big range of ideas that you can produce. So it's never dull anyway in that sense.
That's why I find them interesting, because they do come in all shapes and sizes. You can have a small collection of like boutique shops up to an out of town park full of the major brands and cinemas and entertainment complex and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And everything in between, independent retailers and all sorts of stuff like that. But they all often share similar kind of goals and problems, I suppose, don't they? So what are the typical goals that we come across for a shopping centre?
I suppose footfall is primarily always the one you're going to hear about first. That is, with the way that online shopping is going, it's a sort of it's always a battle, but it's trying to keep that footfall consistent and increased at the peak times a year. So obviously Christmas speaks for itself, but summer as well, where it can be a bit quiet. It's about trying to work out how you can get a few more customers through the door. So certainly, footfall for me is always its number one target.
So I would definitely say it would be ultimately like the spend within the tenants. So it's all easy getting the footfall in the door, getting people actually in the centre, but if they're not spending anything within the tenants, then that's ultimately where the goal lies. So just for any of the tenants, I guess it would be just ultimately promoting them within the centre and ultimately their products, their whatever it is that they are looking to offer to the public.
Yeah, and I guess that comes back to why it's important to get the right footfall, to drive the right traffic, because if you get the wrong people, they don't spend any money, they might not enjoy themselves, they might leave a negative review or something like that because you were targeting the wrong people. And I think that's what I love about the digital marketing when we're talking about shopping centres, because you're able to be more targeted. If you just stick a banner up on the side of the M6 and say, come to our shopping centre, with the best will in the world, you're just blunderbussing it at a million different people, way more than that. Whereas with this, we can be really targeted about the types of people, the catchment area, exactly who we want to try and get in, and there's a much better chance we're going to make those people actually spend some money and ultimately do something. Okay, so these are the goals, these are the things that shopping centre managers and shopping centres in general want to achieve. What are the problems, what are the challenges they face predominantly?
I think it's the clear one that you hear about in the news all the time, which is shopping, online shopping, Amazon, all these retailers. You don't have to leave your sofa to get what you could get from the tenants in the shopping centre. Why would someone, get on the tube, get on the bus, whatever it is, to go to your shopping centre when they could easily get it online, delivered to their door, etc., etc. And it's a challenge that I'm sure every centre, faces. It's certainly something the high street's facing generally. That for me is certainly one of the big ones.
With all those challenges, Joe, why are more people not doing digital marketing? Why aren't they spending time doing this and making sure they've got a great site, making sure they've got great social? What's the reason for people not doing it?
I think it is mainly it is purely just they don't have the time or the actual staff members to do that. Because typically you do have a centre manager, and in slightly bigger teams you do have an administration assistant as well helping with it, but because they are pulled in a million different directions, because they have so many tenants and they have so many things to cater to, they just purely don't have the time a lot of the time to do the likes of social media and digital marketing, their website, anything like that.
I think it's a perception that a lot of this stuff takes a lot of time, and to do it really well, it does take quite a lot of time. You do need to donate a big proportion of your time to really, really nailing it. But there are certainly things you can do with a limited bit of time, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about more today. But I think that is that's one of the things I love about them. Again, it's not just about the centres themselves. It's the staff in shopping centres, the centre managers. That is it's a pretty thankless job, isn't it? It's a pretty tough job. It's every hour God sends. It's weekends. You're dealing with the general public, who are by and large delightful, but they do present their occasional challenges, as we know from many of the events we've attended across the country, and they are just doing all sorts of stuff. 1 minute they're trying to sign off a marketing strategy, and the next minute they're dealing with a skip that's on fire, or trying to sort out some toilets that are flooded, or something like that. They're just constantly jumping from task to task, and I think that's why they're although every shopping centre manager is completely different, they have these sort of characteristics that are very similar, and they make them that makes the best ones incredibly fun to work with, because they do want to try stuff. They do know that you've got to be a little bit cleverer. We don't have the most budget to spend on things usually, so you've got to be a bit wily and try and figure out cool ways to do things, and I think that's what makes it fun. Makes them fun accounts to work on. But as you already say, Ali, not every shopping centre has the ability to have an agency or have other people working like us. So let's have a little run through of some of the things that a shopping centre, any shopping centre, should have a think about, and ultimately some kind of tips for things they could do without having to invest a huge amount of time, or indeed a huge amount of money in making that stuff happen. So let's run through the list then. What are the things that people should be talking about, people should be thinking about?
Well, I suppose you've got to look at the website. I think website SEO, that is, when people are going to look you up, going to give you a quick Google, things to do in the local area, or where they can find this particular item of clothing or particular item or product. Hopefully your shopping centre wants to come top of that list. And your website.
What's SEO?
Search engine optimization.
Okay, that sounds.
So therefore, when you type in the name of your shopping centre, it will come up at the top of your Google search, your Bing search, whatever you're using, and you will get
your Bing search.
I've just read 100,000 users per month.
That's true. No, I'm being flippant and facetious. So the website. What else?
Yeah, so we'll just add into the website. I know with me personally, and I guess the majority of the public would just see the overall aesthetic of the website as well. Because if something doesn't look that good, or if there's not a lot of content on there, then I definitely know I wouldn't be on that site for much longer than a couple of seconds, if that.
It massively affects what you think that. If you've never been to that centre before, it massively affects what you think that centre is going to be like when you go on the website, if it's clear and easy and everything like that. And I think that's where we'll come on to talk about it in a bit more detail. But with websites, there's clearly two different types of people. There's your regular visitors, a lot of shopping centres just have a catchment, they have the local people, they have that regular audience, but then you have the out of town people that don't come there all the time, and they need to give them something to see and get them the information they need quickly and easily as well. So you've got to cater to both types of people.
Exactly. And then I would also say social media is a big one, and staying active on social media, because I know, again, being a member of the public, if I'm wanting to look at, like, if I was visiting a certain shopping centre and I realised that they hadn't posted in like maybe a week, 2 weeks, then you wouldn't stay on that page long at all. And especially if you had like any queries or about like parking or opening hours and you realise that they aren't posting a lot, then again it would just deter you from doing that or interacting with that profile at all. So I would definitely say social media is a big one for shopping centres.
Yeah, and I think that again helps with that repeat visit. If you're thinking about what I'm going to do this week, seeing that constant communication, those ideas, reasons to visit, that kind of stuff, makes you think, oh, I'll go and have a look at that. Or like, there's an event on it, promotes that, there's a special offer. You know, those are the things that do ultimately help drive footfall from those repeat visitors, because those are the ones that are going to be probably following your local shopping centre. It's not going to be an out-of-town tourist that's going to follow your local shopping centre, because there's not really much point. It's going to be the locals, it's going to be those people that, and again, those people are much more likely to engage. And we've definitely seen that, haven't we, that the audiences for shopping centres that do like, the pages on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, they have they generally get involved. They get involved in the conversation, sometimes positively, sometimes less so. But they do get involved. You can get riled up about stuff and debate things and stuff like that. So which is great. That's what you want from from conversation. So what else we've got? Website. Need to think about that. The SEO of that site, social media, any other forms of digital communication.
Well, I think last but not least, I think email.
Email's dead. Email's dead by now, Joe.
You'd be surprised the amount of people who, the social media bracket is often talked about being very popular with the sort of 40s and under. You've got people old school using desktop computers who will rely on email communication to get a lot of their information, and that is where email will serve a purpose if you are running an event, if you are running a promotion, if there's anything to do with seasonal stuff, Christmas, Valentine's, Easter, whatever. Email will get that out to a huge audience, and it's still very effective. So I definitely say shopping centre emails. I think it's yes, GDPR might have scared some people away, but actually, as long as everything's clear and ordered, email will serve a really strong purpose for a lot of those customers who aren't on Twitter, aren't on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say with email, it's a vital way to actually grow your audience. Like for social media and website less so, but for social media, it's more about maintaining your audience and connecting with the audience. But I definitely think with email, that's about reaching out. So if there is anyone that comes to the centre, I'd briefly and then get them on your mailing list or something like that and get the information out.
Okay, so website, SEO, social media, email, all important. None of this is sounding any easier with the 30 seconds of free time I have in a week. So let's try and run down some quick and easy quick wins that you can do on each of those platforms to try and get your house in order and ultimately have some real impact with minimal amount of effort and work. So first up, the website. What should we be thinking about?
Just get that basic information on there. What tenants do you have? Where are you located? What are your opening times? Get the really, really simple stuff really easy to access. If it has to be on the homepage, so be it, but make it really simple to navigate. Don't worry about having loads of flash-looking pages and worrying too much about little fun features website. Just try and get the information that people are going to be looking for when they're sort of Google searching, etc. Try and get that stuff certainly as front and centre as you can.
I would definitely say that mobile would be a big contributing factor as well to your website, because we would find up to 80% of people would be using their mobile and viewing the website through their mobile. So having that running smoothly and having all the options, like you were saying, contact information, opening times, everything, having that really well laid out on a mobile, I would say is just as crucial, if not more crucial, than on desktop, because especially nowadays we do have like the younger audiences that are wanting to see like opening times of shopping out of like shops and restaurants, and if you can't find that easily on your phone, then it'll just deter them even further from coming to the shopping centre.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think, that's why when we're designing a site, you always think about mobile first, and you think, you've got to think about, your thumbs and your fingers and whereabouts are you going to get and how are you going to get to the information quickly and easily. It's great to have a wonderful, beautiful looking website with a huge, great big banner of a lady carrying a load of shopping bags on the front on the homepage, but really and truly, when that gets squashed down onto a mobile, you've got 3 pages of scrolling to get through before you can find the information you need. It just isn't valuable. You need opening times, you need directions. That's what most people are looking for, is how to get to the place, to see what the shops are that are going to be there, maybe look for a map or something like that. But it's basic stuff. You're usually not going to get people reading a lot of blogs and doing that kind of stuff on a mobile device. So you can kind of tuck those bits of information away to one side and get the essentials out front. People will go looking for those things if they want them. But yeah, structuring it, it's dead straightforward. You said it before, and just be a consumer, think like a customer, and be a person that goes on websites. We all use them all the time, yet for some reason when we're thinking about designing one, you just chuck, you think, I need it to do this, and I want this feature on it, and we want a kitchen sink approach to it. Whereas, you start with the basics, start with the stuff that people need to know, and then build up on that and add additional features and additional functionality beyond that. So now we've got a good site, we've got it's nicely laid out and stuff like that. That's probably a bit difficult, and maybe if you're a shopping centre, you can't necessarily redesign your own website. So I'm stuck with the site I've got. What am I going to do to try and get some traffic onto that site?
Well, we did touch on it, but certainly blog writing is a small feature. Blogs don't have to be thousands of words long. That's a bit of a fallacy, really. I think a couple of hundred words that could promote your centre, whether it's an event, whether it's promoting one of your tenants, new store opening, etc. Those are little bits of sort of medium to long form content that could drive traffic to the website, because a blog page is fairly straightforward. You don't have to worry really about the structure of that, but yet you could put a lot of information that a customer could be searching for.
And again, dead easy to add a blog onto a site. And that's one of those things that even if you've got a site, you could still add a WordPress blog or something like that onto the back end of it pretty cheaply or free if you know what you're doing. And then you can start generating some content and putting it on there. That will definitely help. Another thing to think about is like Google Analytics. I think that's a really important and straightforward thing to get done. So make sure you've got that on your site. Most people, when they build a site, have that installed anyway. But go and have a look at it and have a look and see what pages people are visiting and what people are looking at, what pages are causing people to bounce straight away and not look at anything else. And then you start to build up a bit of a picture of what's working well on the site and what's not really working at all. We'll come on to things like the content marketing and kind of more ideas about more engaging content and stuff like that. But I think with a website, that's the key really, is make sure it works, make sure it's well functional, make sure it works great on a mobile, and then maybe start thinking a little bit about some of the technical optimization stuff as well. So get your Google Analytics right, make sure there's some page titles on each of the page, make sure your images are tagged and stuff like that. These are all things that may be a little bit more advanced. There's a little section about that in the white paper that we've done that kind of goes into a bit more detail about how to do some of that stuff. But some little tiny things like that will make a big difference to generating some decent traffic to the site. And that is a really important thing, because I think we have a real focus on social media and getting a good social media audience and all that sort of stuff. But I think the thing that's going to bring you in new people from outside the area, the thing that's going to get tourists along, especially if you're in a place that's got a lot of competition, is how well you rank when someone searches for shopping in X location or a cinema in X location. That's what you need to be ranking well for, because otherwise you're just going to be like finding somebody else and they won't be coming to your centre.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so you've nailed your website. That's looking pretty tasty now. What's next?
So the next biggest thing would be social media, I guess, on that. and just keeping your social media active. Like I was saying before, like again, being a member of the public, you want to see that shopping centre is very active, whether that's the promotions that they have in various tenants that people want to look at, whether it's even just as simple as them asking or tweeting a question or Facebooking a question and making sure you get that response within a good amount of time, just so the audience can see that they're engaging.
So let's go back to the beginning. So social media, we're talking here about Facebook, we're talking about Twitter, we're talking about Instagram, we might be talking about Snapchat. But that's all just like a lot of stuff to do. Again, I haven't got any time. When am I going to do all this stuff? So do I just go and have a crack at all of these, or am I going to try and pick and choose which ones I use? What would you recommend?
Yeah, you definitely need to gauge it from your audience and from exactly what ones would suit them more. Because I've definitely known from some of the shopping centres, like they do have a favourable account more than anyone else, or more than another one.
So where like Twitter works better than Facebook, say, or Instagram is doing better than Facebook.
And it's all just about like the demographic and what they're using themselves. And I guess that does come from, if you don't have time for like market research, then it is just trial and error, and it is just about seeing what posts and what platform gets most engagement, gets most reaction out of your audience.
I think one of the things that, with certainly with centre managers and most people that work in shopping centres is that whilst the digital world might not be everyone's forte, they know their customers, they know their audience, they know who they are, they know how old they are, they know the kind of mix of ABC ones and all that kind of business. They've got a real good handle on that, so it's not that difficult to look at the demographic of your centre and then compare that to the average demographic of each of the different social networks, and then decide which one is the best one for you to start with. And that's kind of the way that you get going on it. It's just pick one and have a go at that, and then build up to using the other ones, rather than doing a broad brush. Just get set up on every single one, and then just don't post on most of them, which I think is what a lot of people end up doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got my social media account set up, and I've made them look alright. I've got some pictures on and things like that. But now I've got something to write every day. How are you coming up with content for a shopping centre every day?
Well, that is, so if you are a small team, you don't want to write it live. Some people can write it live if they've got enough time dedicated, but as the example we are talking about shows, they don't have the time. So think about a content plan, think about which channels you have most success on. Facebook, you don't have to really post more than three times a week, and writing posts for that doesn't have to be terribly difficult. You can talk about a tenant, you can talk about an offer, you can talk about the season, you can talk about an event that's going on in the centre. There are a lot of options, and you can do quirky content as well. Don't feel you have to constantly talk about the shopping centre at all. You talk about your local community as well. Talk about events that are going on around you to show that you are engaged with, as we've always said, the local audience that will probably naturally be following you. So I don't think you need more than, at worst, an hour, probably a week, if you were to take it really slowly, to do a quick few Facebook posts. And if you're on Twitter or Instagram, you probably should have time to do a couple of posts on there as well.
And I think like what you were saying, when you're actually planning content, that's where the likes of Hootsuite or TweetDeck comes in handy, and it does make writing your content and planning out a strategy a lot more simple. Because like you were saying, if a lot of people tend to do is, if they're just tweeting live or something, then it's really inconsistent. And again, they just don't have the time a lot of the time.
Because that's what happens is you get on a Monday, no, I'm really going to nail social media this week. I've been meaning to get this done, so let's crack on, we're going to do it. And Monday, Tuesday, a couple of posts every day. Wednesday, a load of other things have happened, something's gone on Thursday, and by the time it gets into the week, it's drifted right off. I think scheduling stuff using platforms like that, and these are free, aren't they? You can
exactly.
There's no cost to a lot of those things. So. And you can get a lot of stuff done on those. The other thing about shopping centres is there's just boatloads of content, isn't there? There's just loads of good stuff to go at. You've got all these shops that have all got new stuff coming in all the time. You've often got events going on. If you've got a cinema, there's new movies coming out all the time. There's just loads and loads of stuff to go at. So I think that's part of it. Is get up from your desk, go and walk out into the mall or into the central area or whatever there is, and go and see what's going on. See what's new. Go and talk to the stores. Find out what new stuff they've got in. See if you can get some photos of some clothes, or what new movies are out, or whatever else, and just kind of find something interesting out there. And that's part of the challenge of social media and content marketing as a whole, isn't it? It's being able to sort of sniff out those stories and find those interesting little things, because just like the staff at centres, the retail staff are fascinating. They'll all be doing interesting things. They'll all have little initiatives and little ideas, especially in independents that you can potentially get involved with, and then you might find someone will give you a prize for a competition, and then that's golden, isn't it? Then you can give away something like that, and that'll be a great way of driving some more people.
Yeah. And the good thing as well, about the huge amount of different content, with that you do attract a lot of different members of the public that are interested in certain things, whether that's games, whether that's shopping, fashion, foodies, anything. So you gather all those different types of people, and you have such good engaging content for that side, so then you are attracting a lot more crowds rather than just the one crowd.
Okay, so we've got a great website.
Yep.
We've had a little dabble in the SEO. We've got our social media set up, and that's pretty nice. We're posting regularly, we're scheduling, it's all good. Email. Talk about email, Joe.
Well, I suppose, again, short on time, so have a quick Google, look at there are plenty of pretty cheap, if not free, depending on the audience size, email sort of marketing tools. MailChimp, for one, I know is particularly good, and you can use those tools. They will help guide you through the process of creating a nice, clear template, nothing too complex with too many things going on. It will give you recommendations for subject lines, sort of length of text, type of images to use, and then you can sort of build yourself quite a nice. I'd always keep it quite succinct, to be honest. I don't think anyone's going to be scrolling through a long email, so keep your subject and your topics quite short and sharp. And as I said, those tools will help guide you through whether have you thought about this, have you thought about that, and it's a great place to start if you are time shy.
Yeah, it's a great. A lot of these things, like MailChimp, for example, free to get started on. Get a template, chuck your logo on, write a bit of nice copy. Promote a couple of offers, promote a competition. If you've got a blog and you put some stories up there, then talk about those. If you've got an event coming up, it's a great way. I think that email is a great way of getting to just a totally different audience, and we still see really, really good open rates on those things. And I do think you mentioned before about GDPR, and I think that has scared a lot of people away from doing email and things like that. I think, I need to just delete my email database and everything like that. Now, if you gathered your email database through nefarious means, delete your database. That is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you're capturing data using a newsletter sign-up form and you've got a proper opt-in on your website and it's absolutely clear why that person is signing up, you're not just grabbing emails off every Tom, Dick and Harry that walks past, then this is fine. It's not going to be a problem. Someone said, I want to receive an email, send them an email. This is not, don't over-email them by any means, but that's really not a problem. Don't be buying data off random strangers in the pub. That's a bad idea. But at events, capture the data if you can. Ask people to sign up to a newsletter. So again, get them to sign up, get them to tick a tick box. Make sure you say all that information. I hasten to add, not a GDPR expert. Certainly not giving you any legal advice. But really, I think a lot of people have got very scared about sending any sort of communication out. And in reality, if you're doing the right thing, if you're capturing data legitimately and you're asking people permission and they're getting a legitimate consent from those people, it's not a problem. And I think we've seen some clients really, really take a real hard line on this and really annihilate their databases and very quickly grow them back up again by just going back to people and asking we were either emailing or just inviting people to enter competitions via a data capture form instead of just a like and share on the website. So there are loads of ways to try and grow that database and get some more people back on the list again. And I do think it's a really, really valuable way of getting different people to come along to events or get involved and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And again, I think ability to segment it and to do a lot of other stuff once you get a bit more advanced really does make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked a bit before about content marketing. I think that's something that I wanted to talk a little bit about as well, because we've got a website. We talked about doing blogs and stuff like that. We talked about the social and how to come up with ideas for things like that. But content marketing is something that people blast around a lot all the time and things like that. What does it mean, and why should a shopping centre care about it? So you've got everything. You've got your email sorted as well now. We talked a bit earlier about blog articles and things like that. And I think a lot of people look at that and go, "Oh, writing a blog, I haven't got anything to say about anything. How can I write a massive, great blog article?" But I think something that people do get a bit scared of is this idea of content marketing, this idea of creating these big pieces of content and stuff like that. Why, as a shopping centre, should I care about content marketing?
Well, as we said, it can really bring your shopping centre to the focus of the local community around you, and by having a content strategy, that is how you will achieve that. You don't have to worry about writing a blog a week. That's probably unachievable. But if you have a strategy, if you think long term about what you would like to try and achieve, how you'd like to drive traffic to the website, how you'd like to grow your social media audience, how you'd like to engage with the public, you can think long term at the beginning of the year, have a sit down with you and your team and think about events, projects, ideas you'd like to try and promote, some campaigns perhaps, and you can do blog content off the back of that, and then off the back of that blog you can do some video content, you can do some social media posts. You can really start to think about how little ideas can suddenly become huge pieces of content just by sitting down at the beginning of the year and maybe thinking of a 6-month, 3-month strategy where you can sort of just plan these things out and everything gets chopped into nice manageable chunks, which is always the best way to approach it.
So people have stuck with us for this long. Let's give people a few examples of types of content that they could really easily create that would be great for a website, but again would create some lovely content for social as well.
Yeah, so I would definitely say first and foremost with shopping centres, they're very led with their fashion and their retail stores. So I would definitely say ones like Halloween trends if there's any festivities happening, again Christmas as well, autumn winter trends if any of the tenants have any nice new collections that are coming out or anything, stuff like that. And also the beauty with shopping centres is if you have other retailers like maybe bookshops, you could say like the 10 best sellers of the year or something like that. So it's just all encompassing of the different parts of your shopping centre that you have that you want to push forward.
And it's a great idea to try and localise that content as well, isn't it? So if you're doing something like you said, like top 10 bestsellers, try and make it top 10 bestsellers in your local area, or this local area's favourite book, or even like trends for people in this local area, because it just, again, I think it's just more interesting to people in that local area if it's more specific. We see a lot of people do things like movie reviews. Well, there's a million websites I can go to get a much better movie review than is going to be done by a shopping centre. But I would be quite interested to know what were the top 10 movies of the year in my local area. So I think that's how to kind of approach it. So you've talked a lot about the local community as well, Joe. What are there any other ideas for getting involved with the community?
There's plenty, because I think it's that I think that its shopping centre doesn't have to be just completely looking internally, look externally as well. So you've got lots of holidays that you can throw events and cater towards, and obviously write blogs and do videos to promote those, but also talk about the local area, show that you are engaged with it, talk about local attractions, tag them into blog posts, tag them into social posts. You will more often than not have that reciprocated by the area itself, and therefore you increase your catchment area, you get eyes on a new audience. You could have, say, summer holidays that have just been, you could do, your local attractions during the summer. So if you're near the coast or there's fun, theme parks or, national trust places. You could go to those kind of things, mention them in your posts, tag them in, and those guys are looking for more publicity. So the idea that a local shopping centre is mention them as well, it's just, you just riff off each other. It's quite a strong way to produce content and get good engagement as well.
Yeah, it's all about not being quite so insular and not thinking about your centre as this little island in the middle of this town. Think about all the other stuff. Obviously, don't talk about the competition. That's you create a narrative of things to do in the local area that usually pretends that the other shopping centre that's just on the other side of town doesn't actually exist. So you just talk about all these things. You're talking about places to eat. You don't talk about anywhere that is comparable to a place you've got. So if you've got a nice burger restaurant, you don't talk about a burger restaurant that isn't in town. But you might talk about a fine dining restaurant because there's no competition there. So again, you can spread your wings a bit wider, and again, as you say, Joe, you will get reciprocated. You will talk about those people. They will share your content, and then their audience will see. Oh, right, okay, these guys are working together. They're interested in. That's fine. I'm more likely to go there now because of that.
I think it makes it more trustworthy as well, because you will tend to find that with a lot of people, and again, it's putting your eyes in the public. Like if you see that it is constantly like, come to our shopping centre, read this, but it's all about them, then a lot of people will think that it's quite biased. But if you do have quite a lot of like the community stuff, and you're seen supporting other, if it's like restaurants, other brands, whatever, then it will make it a lot more trustworthy to the public, and ultimately it would attract them to your social media pages, your website, and ultimately.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot. There's a huge amount to go out there. There's a lot of it's a pretty wide landscape of stuff to be trying out, but you can break it down into little bits. Again, check out our little white paper. It kind of breaks down how you can do this in an hour a day, a bit of a plan for breaking up your time, and it's a great. The other thing is that in a lot of centres or even in stores, there are people that are like budding photographers, and I'd love to be given the opportunity to go and get some content. This is a fun job. Like that's the thing I always think is this going out and taking photos of people, of clothes or of products or of things that are going on. This is not a chore. This is a fun thing to do. So you'll often find somebody that fancies having a crack at that. So put the word out. Ask the tenants and the staff of the tenants to say, who have you got? Have you got anyone that might be interested in being a budding reporter for us and bring us some of that content and bring some photos and stuff? There are ways of sort of giving those jobs to other people, and ultimately it's good. It's development for other people, and it's and it helps the centre as well. So there's loads of good stuff there, and I think you can do a lot of it by breaking it down.
Absolutely,
definitely.
Obviously, wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say if you can't do it, we can do it for you. That is something we're very happy to do. But you can achieve a lot of success just by kind of following along with some of these tips. It's something that, like we said at the start, I love working with shopping centres. I think that they're fascinating. I think the people that are there are fascinating, and I love the diversity of different types of things you can do. So I hope you found it useful. I hope there's something in there that you're able to take away and do an action. Tell us how you got on. I'd love to hear what sort of things have worked, what hasn't worked, stuff like that. Let us know. Any other closing thoughts from you, gentlemen?
No, I think we've covered everything pretty succinctly in our lovely little podcast. But go have a go. I think that's the thing. Is why not try it? Try it live.
Yeah, and just not to be scared of it. It is social media after all. We're all exposed to it, and I think it's trial and error as well. It's about putting stuff out, seeing what works, what doesn't work, and ultimately just being creative and enjoying it. Really, I'd say.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.